So if, like me, you are looking at uranium investing, then you absolutely must take a look at this place. Hi, this is Fabi with the Next Big Rush, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Athabasca Basin, not because I understand it so well, but because I talked to somebody who really does. I recently sat down virtually with Ted O'Connor and asked him about the Athabasca Basin to really understand what the potential of this region is in regards to uranium investing. Let's take a look. We are here with Ted O'Connor with Athabasca Energy. Welcome, Ted.
Thanks, Fabi. Nice to talk with you today.
Awesome. Ted, can you let us know why is the Athabasca Basin a good investment thesis from a geological perspective? I hear everybody talking about it. You know, it's the Saudi Arabia of uranium. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's kind of unique geologically as far as being prospective for uranium. The type of uranium deposits found in the Athabasca are called unconformity uranium deposits, and it's kind of an interplay between a very old stable sandstone basin called the Athabasca Sandstone Basin and the prospective basement rocks that are quite a bit older. And it's that long stability with the uranium solutions going around inside the sandstone, scavenging uranium and depositing it at what we call an unconformity, which is a break in geological time between the Athabasca sandstone, that's about 1.7 billion years old, and the basement rocks, which have been stable and last deformed about 2 billion years. So there's this hiatus in geological time that's missing. And at that unconformity is where the uranium gets deposited in Saskatchewan.
And why is Saskatchewan considered such a great mining jurisdiction?
Well, it ranks number one in Canada these last several years as far as being conducive for mineral development and exploration from an incentive point of view, but also from a jurisdictional and ease of being able to work in the province. Mining is quite important to Saskatchewan, and they're quite supportive both from an exploration and then an ease of permitting, and as long as community consultations go correctly and you have science-based environmental rules to follow. If those are followed properly, there's really nothing that stops proper sustainable development of mining projects in the province. And as far as I'm aware, when you look around the world, they're usually in the top 10 or 20 jurisdictions globally. So best in Canada for supporting mining development and among the best in the world.
So does that translate into projects getting permitted faster than elsewhere?
Well, I won't say faster, but there's very clear, concise rules and regulations and a system, a framework in place to follow to be able to develop projects, whether they be uranium, potash, gold, whatever, diamonds. There's clear rules, and there's no funny business jurisdictionally.
Great. Now, I want to jump into Athabasca Energy's next drilling program here, but before we do that, can you just tell us more about your experience? I usually say that whoever is left in this business, in the uranium business, must be very experienced, because you definitely didn't join, in the last 10 years or so, because that would have just made for a very bad career for everybody entering the business this last 10 years. So you must come from great success. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, for sure. I spent 20 years with Cameco Corporation, based here in Saskatoon and in Northern Australia, and over that 20-year time frame, I've worked in most of the major uranium districts around the world. Started off in Saskatchewan, then went to Nunavut in the Thelon Basin, and then the Cambalji Basin in northern Australia. These are, I guess, similar, not quite the same uranium endowment as the Athabasca, but these unconformity uranium districts. And then when the price of uranium increased, I started looking globally at other uranium deposit models, and a few of them bubbled up to the top. Azincourt is in the Athabasca with the East Preston project, but it also has some new projects in Peru, where I'm quite familiar with that, having run some projects for Cameco with partners down there. So I've been everywhere except Antarctica, looking for and finding uranium. So, and then in the last 6 or 7 years, I've been on the junior side of uranium, primarily exploration development companies, and directly in the Western Athabasca, where East Preston project is. When I was with Cameco, I drilled the first holes that they have a joint venture with Hook Lake with Pierpoint, and they were the first holes ever out in the West for a long time, and we saw smoke, and eventually people found fire, whether it was NextGen, Fission, or Pierpoint. So they've all had success in the West, and our project is looking equally as promising from a just scratching the surface point of view.
Well, and you guys just came out of a drilling campaign. What have you found during that drilling campaign that gives you clues into the potential of this project?
Well, we're on what I like to call a parallel sort of corridor, and what that means is the basement rocks that host the NextGen and Fission and Pierpoint's discoveries are all along a geological package of rocks that's on the same trend. So they call them corridors. And we're on a parallel corridor with rocks that look quite similar to the discoveries at NextGen, Fission, and Pierpoint Spitfire project. So we have similar looking rocks. So they are nice old graphitic basement rocks. We're outside the edge of the current Athabasca Basin, so we don't have any sandstone cover to drill through or to worry about as far as some of the uranium deposits found in the east that people are mining, Cameco and others. They're buried under 500 meters of sandstone, like Cigar Lake, and it can cause some problems, and we don't have those problems. And because the targets are quite close to surface, we can explore for and ideally find things quicker and less expensively, because the drill holes are shorter and we can get more bang for our dollars drilling.
So is it too early to say that the ore body that you're looking for is more comparable to NextGen's properties or Fission's properties? How do you see that playing out?
Well, because those two discoveries are along the same trend and they're in the same overall package of rocks, they actually are quite similar to each other. The main difference is how the geological faults and structures are found. So Fission's deposit is long and linear, still has quite a lot of depth extent, but it's more related to vertical structures that offset the basement rocks and cause the basement rocks to break and creates open space for these uranium fluids to come in and deposit the uranium. So they tend to be longer and more linear type of deposits. And in the same style of rocks, the NextGen structures are more horizontally broken up. So they tend to be have a smaller footprint when you're looking straight down at these deposits, but they go very much deeper into the basement. So I would say that we have, based on our interpretation of our main corridor at East Preston, that we could we could have either style. And because the rocks are similar and we have some trace element geochemistry that suggests the basement rocks look good from a preparation for unconformity uranium mineralization, that we could have either. But those are essentially the targets that we're shooting for.
Great. And what would you like to see in the upcoming campaign? I know that after, the drills come out, you guys send it off to the lab and then you get the results. What would you like to see in those results that would give you a better idea of what you guys have in East Preston?
Well, the first drill campaign was, we were kind of impacted adversely by warm weather of all things in northern Saskatchewan in March. We started off at -40 and built our roads and got everything going, and then had to really switch gears and switch from overland-based drilling to using a helicopter. So our program was, we only ended up getting 3 holes completed before breakup. And it cost us a lot more than what we had budgeted for, as far as we thought we were going to drill a lot more holes. So this year we've already started. Obviously the permitting process is underway, and the first thing is to prioritize our drill targets, put them on a map, get them properly permitted well before winter time here, and then we'll be able to drill a lot more holes. So building on our 3-hole program of this past winter, where we had, identified the right rocks, we have some basement trace element geochemical pathfinder elements of interest that are elevated. So we're starting to see that. Layering on now, we'd like to find a lot more structural disruption and even higher geochemical signature, and ideally some uranium mineralization. I like to tell the two, I guess, opposite stories in the Athabasca Basin, where Cigar Lake uranium deposit back in 1984 was found after hole 14. Whereas McArthur River, the Cameco's other big uranium mine, was found on hole 210. Ideally, we'd like to be closer to finding, like Cigar Lake, that, these things take time because they're needle in haystack sort of analogy is appropriate for these type of uranium deposits. They're quite small, quite high grade, and we're hoping we're a lot smarter than they were back in the 1980s. And indeed, we've learned a lot. And so taking our geophysics and our current drill knowledge to the next level, where we can drill, 10 to 15 drill holes this coming winter and build on, and ideally, find some proper smoke or fire as far as the uranium pathfinders go.
Well, thank you very much, Ted.
Thanks, Fabiana.
So that was Ted O'Connor with Azincourt Energy. That's ticker symbol in Canada, AAZ or AAZ. In the US, over the counter in the OTC, it's AZURF. And in Frankfurt, it's A0U2.